Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker, Lisa Magnuson. Good to see you both.
You too.
Good afternoon, Mikey. Here we are, Wednesday, January 14th, live for another edition of Lead Better, chance to talk about today's field note from Admired Leadership. And we're talking about the things that should not change. What should not change about the culture? And we're talking about the entire civilization. So we're going to solve in this next 15 minutes exactly what we need to hold on to in our global.
The culture. I didn't even realize.
The
Oh,
culture.
okay. Yeah. So, it's a good question. And I'm sure, our advisors and people like Lisa are out on the front line all the time. Every organization is like, we're going through a transformation. We're dealing with a lot of change. And it just sounds like a lot of times it's like a lot of gobbledygook. And that's why we have people like Lisa that go, okay, as a leader, here's what you should be talking about, or as an organization. So the question, Lisa, when you look at cultures that are working and things that aren't working, how do you get them to hold on to the stuff that's working?
Yeah. Well, part of it is even figuring out what is working, right? So where do we even start? And, part of the reason why I think some of these culture change efforts fail is because they feel the need to come out with these broad, sweeping statements of we need to change the culture. And what people hear is what you were doing and what you valued was wrong. So it creates an inherent resistance versus, hey, here's what we're keeping, here's what we're adjusting. You kind of give people some ground to stand on to figure out, okay, now let's start walking forward together into where we want to go. But if you shake up everything, it's like you've just put down all this shaky sand and their foundation is just in a tough spot, So
Is that what people hear, Lisa? Like, is it the, like, when you're communicating change, is it the normal thing for people to be like, oh, you must have thought that I was doing something wrong?
Or the collective, we were doing something wrong. We wouldn't be changing if things were going well. We wouldn't be changing if this was right. And if you think about these things as a contract or an agreement, it's like the thing I signed up for, you're kind of telling me isn't the thing anymore. The company, the job, the culture, the strategy, this thing that I said yes to when I took this job or took this assignment, you're saying we need to change. So now what am I doing? What am I signing up for? What are we here to do?
And I think some organizations are like my wife, where I don't know why, but there always has to be different pillows or different runners in the hallway or different soaps, we're like, and I'm the kind of person who's like, I kind of like to do everything the same way. Like I have a very regimented thing to be in order to make everything go. I kind of be like, I reach here, I do this, I got that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, and it throws you off. Now I do understand that we want to refresh things. We want to have some vibrancy. We want to have new life inserted into the process. But I think people just in general, at least some people have more than others, but people get used to a certain way of going about things. And as you said, there's a resistance to change. Some of that is you got to work through it. And some of it is like, oh no, they're right. So I think that this question about advising leaders to actually lean in to say, this thing isn't going to change. Like this is who we are, right? Because then that gives you the base to make the change parts more like fun.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the first examples that I thought of, Scott, when I read this morning was I think that families actually do this better than organizations sometimes, right? So if I'm a family and we have created a culture of spend and extravagance and we're eating out all the time, we've been on the run, we like to do these things, and something happens and I face some financial pressures and now we need to change to a culture of saving. We don't throw out all of our traditions, we adapt them, right? We're still going to have pizza night on Friday, but maybe instead of ordering, we make it. We're still going to go on vacation, but instead of the big trip to the beach, maybe we camp at a state park. Like the value of connection, the value of these experiences, the value of, doing things together is still there. But the value of spend has to change to the value of save. So by showing what's not changing makes it easier for me to grasp onto and get on board with what is changing.
Right. So how does an organization do that? For instance, if they're used to having season tickets for all of the major sports teams that are in the area, and you're going to contract that because, you
Yeah.
know, it's too big of a bill. What is the proper way to change that in your estimation?
Are you sending a message of some kind? Are you trying to get
not
the
at all.
partners of our
What are you
firm
saying, Mikey?
okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny the way that you're reacting as if you're not. Have you heard something?
Yeah,
What are you-
exactly.
No, I think it's similar. You've got to replace it with something, right? If rewarding our people still matters to us and the tickets was one way to do that, then what do we replace it with? There are far more affordable things. There's a wide range of options that we have available to us. So what do we replace it with? Just pulling something out without putting anything in its place. Now all of a sudden we're not sending the message that those other values are still in place. So we have to replace it with something, but we can get creative about what that something is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I like the way that you use the kind of the vacation illustration, and actually in our subscriber platform, there's an example that one of our partners uses very similar to that. And the point that she makes there is that they could do the exotic vacation, and they're not far from the Jersey Shore. With their kids, they would just go back to the Jersey Shore. Why? It was familiar. There was the same pizza place. They like to rent bikes and ride. There's those things where it's like, this is us, right? Now, It may not be a big shift to go to camp out at the state park or something like that, but you need to be thinking about that in your team, your organization, even as you try to do this, because putting on the philosopher's hat, we're always mediating between chaos and order. And even in your own life, if you were trying to make a change, you can't make it all of a sudden to everything. You need to have one foot in order, right? To give you the stability to say, here's where I can embrace a little bit of the chaos that's going to take me to a better new adventure level. But I have to have that balance. Like if I get that balance wrong, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, you can take it way too far. And I think in a lot of cases for organizations, pointing back to the roots, the mission is what can help to kind of ground people. So I was thinking about some of the examples. Like at one point in time, Southwest was this little regional airline, right? Largely out of Texas routes. They had to professionalize, they had to modernize, they had to expand and scale, but they were pretty adamant about preserving irreverence, fun-loving culture, commitment to low fares. Like they really honed in on those things that were uniquely them that weren't changing, while they were looking at route structures and fleet decisions and operational processes. So it's like giving people something familiar to ground on, to make it say, oh, it's okay that we're doing these things. We're doing it in service of who we are so that we can be who we are to more people. So I think that balance, to your point, and in yoga, we think about it as effort and ease, right? It's that balance of the two is where you find that sweet spot. And we have to strike that for people, because if we move too much on them at one time, now all of a sudden it puts people in the headspace of, do I need to renegotiate if this is what I've signed up for? If this is where I want to be.
Right.
And we want to keep them on board. We just need them to make some shifts to get it where it needs to be.
Well, and you mentioned, look, I was just going to say one thing about Southwest for both of you is they're about to do their biggest change ever, like where you can pick your seat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's starting in like 2 weeks, something like that. Some of the first ones. Yeah. So Mikey, are you the person that's going to be, because, they do a lot of flying out of the Dallas Fort Worth area, and Lisa, a lot of flying out of Midway. I'm very interested to be like, what's this whole thing going to look like? And what's it going to be like when you get there for the first flight, when people are like, this feels totally different.
No, if I'm not assigned to a pole to stand next to before I get on the plane, I don't know where to stand.
I don't know what to do.
Where's the number?
Now, the most common place that this kind of thing would show up, where change becomes like, oh, there's an existential shift here, would be like in mergers and acquisitions, right? And so how does this practically show up for leaders who are about to go into some kind of a merger in order for them to communicate calm in the moment of people wondering, am I going to be downsized? Am I a duplicate that's going to get out the door? Like, is just the simple idea that communicating a piece of culture is not going to change going to be the thing that satisfies me, or can we just say can you just say my job is safe, please?
It's certainly a starting point because they can't always say that, right?
Right.
And that's the hard part is that we can't overpromise. We certainly don't want to cheerlead change. You know, the worst thing they could do is say, "Don't worry, guys, it's going to be fine. We're going to take the best of all the cultures and create an Uber culture, and you're all going to be a part of it." Like, please don't do that. So managing expectations. This is going to be hard. We have a lot to figure out. Communicating in probabilities. Here's what I know. Here's what I don't know. Here's what we haven't figured out yet. When we decide, when we know, we're going to tell you. So setting some of those communication norms up front is a great starting point. But I think there's a lot of big decisions that team needs to figure out. Mergers can be culture A is merging into culture B, culture B is merging into culture A. We're going to get rid of A and B and create culture C. There's a lot, or we're going to create an A-B hybrid culture. There's a lot of decisions to be made. So communicating in probabilities gives you an opportunity to say, here's what we know, here's what you can hang your hat on. And to your point, Mikey, in the beginning, it might be one little culture thing. But whatever it is, let's find it. And then let's be realistic. And we like to think of it as grounded optimism. It's going to be worth it, but it's going to take a lot to get there. So we need to communicate openly and honestly and in probabilities to help people feel a sense of groundedness along the way.
That creating culture C versus not A, not B, we're going for this Uber culture, which the first way you said it, that makes me feel like everything's changing.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the better way to kind of articulate it to people instead of not A any longer, not B any longer, but C? It's like, okay, you're saying everything is changing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it depends on what the decisions are, so it has to come down to the decisions, because talking about these culture changes in too big of a picture of we're going to throw this all out and create something new and exciting. There's a subset of people who will think that that's new and exciting. And I get to be the kind of are the people that thrive on the startup culture. They'll be like, yeah, sign me up. I get to create and be a part of something. But for most people, they will be like, I don't know where I'm standing. And so I'm going to give you at best 50% of my brain power, because the other 50% is thinking about what else is out there. And is this what I want? So I think, finding ways, and you don't know. The reality is no leadership team who's merging two together know all the answers, even amongst themselves. So they would be well served to buy themselves a bit of time on kind of making any big declarative statements about what it is going to be going forward.
Well, and given your illustration about an airline change, I like one of the examples we've used in the past around a case where there were two airlines that were merging, and merger wasn't exactly the word. It was really a takeover. And so the smaller airline that was being taken over, they kind of lost everything. There's different unions for the flight attendants and the pilots, but their uniforms, the colors of the planes, all that culture for them was out the door. But one of the sticking points was that they had a practice in the culture for their pilots, that the way that they notified, the number of dings that happen. You hear them when you get on a plane, a ding, ding, or some. In the one airline, it was 3 dings. In that particular airline, it was 2 dings. And they hung on to that. And in the merger, they're like, we're going to go with the 2 dings. That may seem like a very small thing, but it was a message that was sent then to those crews, pivotal people in the operation of an airline. This is okay. You're part of us. We're part of you. This part is not changing. And so even small things like that, and that's very important for leaders to be mindful, to be looking for those little things that are symbolic, but that send a really outsized message.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting. When you look for stuff that's symbolic, what are you actually looking for?
That's a really good question, Mikey. When I'm looking for something that's symbolic, it's often small, it's often understated, but it carries a big message. It's something that communicates values. It's something that communicates character. It's something that communicates these kind of deeper things that are less likely to change, right? So when I'm thinking about something symbolic, I'm wanting something that people can kind of look to. It's easy to do, it's easy to replicate, and it's something that can communicate something deeper, because the things that are going to be the most disrupted are all the little tiny things here and there. Like there's a lot of operational things, there's financial decisions, there's all of those. Those things can be difficult to be symbolic, but when you have a lot of question marks and a lot of questions on the table, is there something small? 2 dings. Is there something small that says, you're going to see it over and over, hear it in that case, over and over and over again. And you're going to know it says, we know you, we see you, you're here, you're part of this. So looking for those small things as a starting point. I think
you didn't mention the pillows or the soap not changing, and by the way, okay, now this is my final thing, which is, this is the most important thing I've said is, I'm giving you real serious advice, Lisa. You had a brilliant phrase about grounded optimism, and I love that. Don't use that word with airlines.
That's worth its weight in gold right there. Good advice.
There you go.
All right. Thank you both for your time today. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, gents.
All right. Bye now.
See y'all.